Hey guys, it's Carla. Today I'm starting with a black canvas and my outline is already drawn on. If you want this free traceable, you can go to my Facebook page in the link below, and that's where I post all of my traceables and my reference photos. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a flat synthetic brush. You could use a round brush or just whatever, but the flat brush seems to work well for this. And I'm just going to start putting in some of my apple colors. And this is really simple, and a lot of it will get covered up, a lot of it won't. So you can kind of play with this and put in different colors and shades. The main thing is to keep your brush strokes going in the direction of the apple. So like over here, I'm kind of curving it a little bit. And right there, curving it the other way a little bit. So just wherever you're putting in color, just keep your brush strokes in mind. But as far as the colors that you use, if you want like a green apple, completely green apple, you could put in more greens and yellows. If you want a red apple, put in more red. I kind of used both just for uniqueness sake, because I wanted more color in it. But if you want just a red apple or just a green apple, that's fine too. So I'm just mixing up different shades of red, different shades of green, and putting them on there, knowing that I can change it at any time because paint covers paint. So if I put more red than I want, I can go back over it with a different color. If I put more green or yellow, whatever, I can go back over it. So it's really, this is a fun painting because you can play around with the colors so much and change them anytime you want. So it really is fun. So when I'm putting in my red shades, I'm keeping in mind that orange is kind of a reddish shade. Pink is a reddish shade. So there's a lot of different shades just in red, and the same with green and yellow. So this is just all about layers and layers and layers and layers. And so at any time you can change it up just with another layer. But again, the main thing is to keep your brush strokes going in the direction that they're supposed to. Now, as far as the colors of the apple, that's just personal preference. That's, you know, like I said, you can play around with that. When we get down to where we're putting in the shadows, that's what's going to make it look more real. So the colors, you know, apples come in a lot of different colors, so that's not as important. You can really get creative with that. But after a while, I'll show you how to shade it to make it look like they're actually sitting on a table and not just pasted on there. So I'm just going to keep playing with my colors, and I'll speed this up so that it's not so boring, but just know that you're just going to keep adding layers and layers and layers until you have all the coloring that you want. So just really get creative with it, and don't be impatient with it. Just keep going until you like it. Now when you get here to the where the apple, where the stem comes out, so where it looks kind of deep right here, then, you know, slow down and make sure that you get this all in there so that it does look like it is recessed right there. Okay, so now for the leaf, I just mixed up a kind of a dull green shade, but whatever shade you like is fine. And I'm just filling it in and then coming back with darker and lighter shades on it. And now with the stem, I just mixed up a stem color that I thought would look good. You can use whatever colors you want on that. And the same thing on it. You just want the base color and then either darken it or lighten it in areas to give it some dimension. Now with a damp brush, a clean damp brush, while this paint is still wet, I'm kind of scrubbing in a little vein. So all this does is it lifts off the wet paint that's on there. And then it shows that black background through it. So that's just another way of putting in the vein without using paint. Now I want to put some highlights on the stems. Okay, now I'm going to put in a really bright spot. This is not going to stay white, but I want to put in white so that when I put color on top of it, it will be bright and pure. So I'm just getting this really bright, and then I'll move on to other things while it dries. So I'm going to start on the table, and I'm just mixing white and raw sienna, and with a hog bristle brush I'm just scrubbing this in. And I'm not going to go all the way up to the apple because there's going to be a shadow underneath it, so there's no reason to get rid of that black and then put it back in again. So I'm just going to kind of scrub in around the shadow. The top part, the background above the apples, is just going to stay black. Okay, and then I'm just going to warm that up a little bit by adding in some just plain raw sienna. All right, so now I'm going back to my apple and putting in some more red now that it's all dry. Sometimes you have to wait till it dries to see what color it actually is, because, or what shade it actually is, because acrylic paint is a water-based paint. And so when the water evaporates out of it, it just leaves the pigment. And sometimes that's a different shade than it looks while it's wet. It's really fun to just play around with these colors in the apple, because you can do so much with it, create different looks. All right, so with a hog bristle brush with just black, I'm going to come back in and kind of clean up my shadow that I left. And with the hog bristle brush, you can scrub it in and get that soft edge look. And also, I want to scrub up into the apple, because when something is sitting on a surface and there's a dark shadow underneath it, then typically you can barely tell where the shadow stops and the object starts. So what you want to do is scrub that shadow up into the apple, and it'll look more seated. But you want it to gradually fade off into the color of the apple. You don't want a sudden change in color. So as you can see, that made it look more real, like it's actually sitting there. And what I'm doing here is, with the hog bristle brush, I'm taking some black and kind of tapping in around the edge so that I don't have a hard edge around the apple. So it's kind of, I guess, fuzzing it out a little bit, and that just kind of softens the look of the painting. So now I'm watering down some red, and I'm going to start putting some color into that bright highlight. And this is just something you play around with until you like it. Again, just, color, layers and layers of color is what we're doing on the whole thing. Now, in doing this, I realized that I actually like that pink shade, so I'm going to put more of that throughout the apple. It's hard to get past in our minds that, an apple is supposed to be red or an apple is supposed to be green. And in reality, if you look closely at an apple, there's like many different shades and colors in it. So when you're painting it, if you'll actually put those colors in instead of letting your logical brain take over, then it'll look more real. So I'm just going to speed this up and put in the rest of my colors into my apples. So I'm going back and forth with reds and greens and yellows, and just working with it until I like it. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and God bless you.